I'd better say something sensible, otherwise I'll be in trouble here. Let me start off by just basically reviewing what is libertarianism. The way I see it, it's predicated on two things. It's sort of, think of a coin, and each coin has got two sides, and on one side of the libertarian coin is the non-aggression axiom, which means that you can do anything you damn well please, you just can't aggress against other people and their property. If I want that great hat that you're wearing, there's only one way I can get it. I can make him an offer, not an offer he can't refuse, as in the mafia, but an offer. I could offer him $100, I could say I'll be your best friend forever. But if he says no, then he keeps the hat and I can't get it. Even if I can convince a majority of you to tell him to give it to me, it's illegitimate. He owns it, and that's it. The second part of the coin, or the opposite side of that non-aggression principle coin, is property rights. Because how do we know that that's his hat? Maybe he stole it from me yesterday, and now I'm just repossessing it. And if so, then I'm entitled to use violence against him to get the hat from him because he stole it from me. So we have to have a theory as to who owns what. And the libertarian theory that I ascribe to, based on homesteading, John Locke, Murray Rothbard, Hans Hoppe have made great contributions to this. And the idea is with virgin territory is he who is there first and mixes his labor with the land or domesticates a wild cow, he gets to own it. And other legitimate ways of transferring property are any, what Robert Nozick called legitimate title transfer. Buying and selling, gambling, gifts, things like that. Okay, so that's the basic element of libertarianism. And what I'm going to do is cover roads, immigration, the environment, and the military, and then maybe have some questions afterward. Why privatize roads? Well, my motto is if it moves, privatize it. If it doesn't move, privatize it. And since everything either moves or doesn't move, privatize everything. Note that I'm taking the anarcho-libertarian perspective. There are two other versions of libertarianism. One would be the minarchist view, where you agree with the non-aggression principle, but there's one exception. There is a legitimate government for the minarchists, and there's only one role of government, and that is to protect persons and property, and for that there's only three legitimate institutions: armies to keep foreign bad guys off of us, police to keep local bad guys off of us, courts to tell who the good guys and the bad guys are. And after that, you'd have, I guess, classical liberals like Milton Friedman or Friedrich Hayek who would agree with that, but then would add on 5 or 10 or 15 other elements for government. And as you keep adding stuff, you become less and less libertarian because you're less and less upholding the non-aggression principle. Why roads? Well, 3 reasons. One, you want to take the most difficult cases for privatization. You don't want to keep talking interminably about how we should privatize the post office. Yeah, we all know we should privatize the post office. It's not really a reach. You want to not pick on straw men. You want to pick on something more different. My second reason is, do you know that 40,000 people a year die on the roads? 40,000. That's a lot of people. Last year it's been like 36,000 or something, but over the last 20, 30 years it's been pretty regularly at 40,000. It's improving slightly because if you divide it by miles or millions of miles traveled, it's a little less, but still 40,000 people. To put that in perspective, only about 3,000 people died in 9/11, and yet we made such a fuss about that. Not that I'm in favor of 3,000 innocent people being killed, but here it's 40,000. I come from New Orleans, and in the aftermath of Katrina, it wasn't Katrina's fault, it was the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA. Between them killed about 1,500 people, but that's only 1,500 people. This is 40,000. That's a lot of people, and yet it's not in the news, nobody's talking about it. And I think it's a crime and a disgrace that the government is creating these deaths. My third reason, traffic congestion. I don't know if you've noticed it around San Francisco, but there's traffic congestion. You just sort of sit there and it's a pain in the neck. Now some people say, well, it's not really the government's fault. It's, and they come up with lists as to why we have all these deaths. For example, speed, driver error, car malfunction, what have you. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has 125 different reasons why we have that, including, you know, how far away is the hospital from the place, and how about the ambulance service, and all sorts of very picayune things that you never really think of. But to me, the mistake there is that they're talking about proximate causes, not ultimate causes. We just went to a Chinese restaurant, some friends of mine and I, and suppose this Chinese restaurant went broke, and we start to list the reasons why it went broke. And we start saying, well, the food was lousy, and the place was dirty, and the food was cold, and the service was lousy. That's not the ultimate reason for the failure of this Chinese restaurant. The ultimate reason is that the manager didn't hire a better cook. He didn't give someone a broom. The location maybe wasn't good. Do you get the point? The ultimate cause is the manager. Well, who's the ultimate cause? Who's the manager of the roads? It's the government. It's the government that didn't deal with drunken driving. It's the government that didn't deal with driver error. It's the government that didn't deal with speeders or people like that. My view is that competition gets you a better product. The reason we don't have any crisis with regard to water bottles or wristwatches or shirts is because they're in the private sector. We have competition. If this brand of pen isn't good, people won't buy it, they'll go broke, they'll lose money, other pen companies will come in. That's why things are pretty good, not perfect. That's why, you know, groceries are okay and pizza's okay and stuff like that, because of this competition. Not because of the FDA or anything like that. It's just good old competition, why we have pretty good products and services in most areas. Well, roads are no exception. If you had competition, and this guy owned Road A, and this guy owned Road B, and on Road A there was a lot of traffic deaths, and on Road B there wasn't, well then Road B would steal the march on Road A. These guys would lose profits, these guys would make profits, these people would expand their bases of operation, these people would contract theirs, and we would get fewer deaths. Now people say, well, you know, that's crazy. You just can't have private roads. You know, the immediate reaction is, you know, what is it that I'm chewing here? It's, you know, maybe a controlled substance or something. But let me put you in the mood. There are other long, thin things that have been privatized. For example, railways. J.J. Hill had private railways. They were long and thin, and somehow they were private. The first roads were not government roads. The first roads were private turnpike roads. Somebody would, you know, set up a dirt road, and then they would charge money, and that would be it. They even had different prices based on rational purposes or rational reasons. For example, if you just had a horse, you paid a lesser amount. If you had a wagon, you paid more. If the wagon had 2 axles, you paid more. If it was loaded up, you'd pay more. If you had a very thin, narrow wheel, think ice skates, you'd pay more because the wheel would rip up the dirt road. It would be good for you because the wagon would move better, but you'd rip up the road, so they'd charge you more. If you had a wide wheel, think steamroller, you'd take the ruts out of the road, and they would charge you less because you were helping the road. So it was a perfectly rational industry, and there were no real problems. How would it work? It would work like any business. Profit and loss, weeding out. You'd expand if you did well. You'd contract if you didn't. How would they charge money? Would you have to stop every 3 seconds in front of somebody's house and take out a half a penny and put it in, and then go, you know, creep to the next person and put a penny in? No, that's silly. We have over here universal product codes. When you buy this, they put it over the thing that looks at it and goes blip. Well, my suggestion in my book on this subject is put this on the underbody of cars, and as you go past some sensor, it registers that you were there at a certain time, and then they send you a bill at the end of the month. So payment will not be such that the traffic will crawl like it does now. How will you start up? Well, you amass land like any business. When Walmart wants to start up, they need 300 acres or 100 acres or whatever they need. They have big places, and they need a big parking lot. But you have this thing called the you have any chalk in this place?
Yeah, there's very small pieces.
This place is run like a business.
This is going to slow me down. Has anyone got chalk in their pocket? My kingdom for a piece of chalk?
Yeah, there should be a box somewhere in the wall, Jerry. A lot of classrooms have boxes.
Okay, so here's a picture of the U.S. There's Florida, there's Texas, there's Long Island. I'm from there, so I have to put Long Island in. And let's say I want to build a building or build a road from San Francisco to, I don't know, New Orleans. I want to build a road.